Hello everyone and welcome to Happy Hump Day News. It's the only time that we actually know it's Hump Day because who's keeping track of the days anymore? I'm Ben Roy and WhatCulture Gaming, joined by Josh Brown today. Josh, how are you doing on this day of the hump?
Well, I'm doing all right because every single time it's Hump Day now, I get to do news with you, which just, perks me up every single Wednesday. So it's good. It's good stuff, man.
Good. What have you got for me today, Josh? Because I hear Warner Brothers are getting their fingers in our pockets once more. They've got some more coins of us. What's the coin situation here?
Potentially, the coinage situation is that I was reading an IGN report, which was essentially going into a new advert that they've posted for an internship at Warner Brothers Studios, their gaming division. This was picked up on Twitter by a Twitter user called MauroNL, and it essentially has this line in the ad which reads, quote, WBIE is currently involved in a variety of new projects ranging from casual games to core games featuring our well-known franchises on all platforms, console, digital, mobile, with a heavy focus on live service. So essentially with this ad, they've confirmed that most of their games going forward are going to feature at least some form of live service element in them, if not built entirely around live service features like Anthem or The Avengers and the like. And it's kind of just essentially, for me, it's a long time coming when it comes to WB games moving in this direction, because they've tried to put like aggressive microtransactions in a bunch of their biggest titles already. There was a huge controversy surrounding Middle-earth Shadow of War when that came out, about the grind and the endgame grind and how you essentially had to pony up a lot of money to get through that game. Obviously they changed that and they backpedaled a little bit, which is the exact same thing they did for Mortal Kombat 11 at launch as well, when that game had a bunch of microtransactions. Then immediately everyone was like, this is kind of weird, and then they backpedaled again. So they've been kind of like pushing the boat out quite a lot with this in the past, and it hasn't gone down particularly well. And I think for a lot of people, looking at WB's upcoming slate, the fact that games like Hogwarts Legacy or the Suicide Squad game will feature live service elements, heavy live service elements, it's not exactly promising, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't think I feel very optimistic about these projects, with this in mind.
This feels like EA's version of single-player games are dead. It's weird because if you put like live service stuff into what essentially was a single-player in Shadow of War, for some reason, why did they keep the Shadow bit and drop the Mordor? I will never know. But it's ridiculous. But that's a reason why I just never bought that game and don't really. That game's come and gone for me now. I'm probably never going to jump in because of that whole Shabakawa. I'm going to call it Shabakawa. I don't know if that's a real word. At the beginning of that sort of game's lifespan. And I sort of held off and getting MK11, but you love a bit of the MK, so you wait until it improves. But the live service thing, I'm one of those that I don't necessarily mind if some cosmetic stuff is like held back. I know that it's like, we go back in there, we used to unlock everything, and back in the old days, and you could save it all on your memory card and take it to your friend's house and blah blah blah. But like you got sometimes accept that industry moves, and it's never going to always be the best for the consumer. They're at the end of the day, they're companies and they want the coins out of your pocket. So it's just hard when they say everything's going to be like this now, because now that are we ever going to get like another proper full-on experience like we did with the Batman games? Because could you imagine Batman Arkham the 4th live service, here we are sort of thing? It doesn't seem to fit in single player stuff, whereas I can see it fit into the Hogwarts sort of manner, because I assume you're going to be Wingardium Leviosa-ing everything with your friends, and how many Wingardiums can you Leviosa in a month to get that final sort of tip on your wand to get the proper Leviosa sort of thing. That's the only thing I know from Harry Potter. I'm sorry, but then with Bat for Blood, and that's a highly anticipated game for me personally. I'm not necessarily worried for that at the moment, because you've got to imagine, if it's just cosmetic, then it's you give them some. I'm willing to give companies, publishers ground. I probably shouldn't be with if it's just cosmetic, then there you go. I don't necessarily care for hats and stuff, even though I know it's ingrained into, especially a lot of younger kids now, where it's like, if you don't have the sexy cool hat, then you're like the you're the default, as it was in Fortnite. So for me, as long as it stays out of my gameplay and it stops it being like a pay to win situation, I'm cool. But I can see why this is concerning for a lot of people, and still concerning for me in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, live service itself isn't inherently like an evil, terrible thing. There are games on their slate that I can also see, potentially even benefiting from this. Like you said, Back 4 Blood, like that's an online co-op multiplayer zombie shooter, like essentially the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. You can see how a game like that could be supported by a live service framework that introduces, new heroes, new cosmetics, maybe new maps, stuff like that. Games like Rainbow Six Siege, like that's a live service title, and that is hugely successful and really, really great, like a really great experience. So it's not like these games have to be these terrible content-free money-making machines, but it's just the fact that so often when that framework has been implemented on what's otherwise a single-player focused title, it's gone completely up the wall. You know what I mean? Like I mentioned earlier, The Avengers is obviously the biggest, most recent example, and not to harp on that too much, but that very much felt like a game where the live service elements were the focus, and then the developers felt like they had to build a game around that. And that's what I don't want to see with franchises like you said, Batman Arkham or anything like that, because the developers of the upcoming Gotham Knights, essentially the next Arkham game, have come out and said that they're not making a live service title. But even then, they have adapted the gameplay to be kind of like more open-ended, perhaps a bit more grindy, and who knows whether the live service elements for that title will just come in, DLC down the line, cosmetics, like you said. I think we do know that the Suicide Squad game, the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, like that is a multiplayer shooter, and that is leaning much heavier into the live service elements. And for a developer like Rocksteady, like I'm really looking forward to what they do with it. But if you look at the rumors surrounding Rocksteady and surrounding WB Montreal, who's making Gotham Knights, it just feels like they've been hitting this wall with WB for a little while, making projects that have gotten cancelled, that have gotten rebooted, and ultimately it's taking both of those studios a long time to get the next game out. So if it was, for me, the fact that the games are going to be live service rings alarm bells, not just because they're live service games, but because of who's publishing them. Like I've said before, WB has tried to get away with a lot before in terms of pushing microtransactions into things, in terms of, releasing Arkham Knight completely broken on PC and then ignoring it in favor of pushing out paid for content, and stuff like that. So it's more the publisher that I don't trust to make good live service games and consumer-friendly live service games more than the worry for, the future of the industry, I guess.
And they were trying to dump off their games division, right? They were just going to
for a little bit, yeah.
That thing called Mortal Kombat, get rid of it. But then, how would it work with, say, like their licensed stuff? Because are their game divisions? Sure, they make great games, but were they as valuable as their IP in a way? Like, could you just give away the Batman IP forever and then get in some sort of like Spider-Man hell, like with Sony and Marvel? That would have been weird as well. But it's kind of like these big publishers, like these big sort of companies, when they dip, like Warner Brothers have done good in the gaming space, like I guess, like compared to others, like whereas Disney has failed so many times, and then just like around the time after Epic Mickey 2, they're just like, look, no, can't be bothered, and then they take Lucas Games and they take around behind the shed, doing with a shotgun. They actually go, actually no, now it's Lucasfilm Games. It's a totally new company. It's brand new. It's new sort of thing. So it's just weird how these companies can never sort of really get it right, but then obviously they can never get it right without getting the right sort of return that they want. And they've seen where Call of Duty, basically at this point, Bobby Kotick could probably buy an island or something, and
100%.
With the amount of money that sits on, and then like the Fortnite's how they bought a mall recently, and they're just going to live in a mall now because that's fun, and it's just like all these other companies are just going to chase that. And it's just gonna really distort the industry, where like the bottom line keeps changing so much, but it's only changing because people are buying so many hats, and it's like if you don't get like that hat money and all that sort of other thing in the season pass, then you start to feel like the actual sale of the game is almost irrelevant, even though they'll still sell you it for, how much is it now? $70, $70 we're going for. Yeah, it's just like it's a weird sort of like race to the top, but at the end we're all going to probably end up in the bottom. But
Aye.
yeah, they'll screw it up, and then they'll walk back on it. And there's a reason why we haven't had, like, say, a proper alchemy sort of style game for a while, because I think we've had these two heads button for a long time.
Yeah.
And we finally had some sort of like either agreement or one's just give it up and like, I just can't anymore. I just want to put another game out, sort of thing at this point. So that's sort of my sort of prediction.
No, it does sort of feel like that. You know, you mentioned the WB has genuinely great developers working for them. You know what I mean? NetherRealm are making some of the best Mortal Kombat games ever. Like, that franchise is as good as it's ever been. You know, like I said before, Rocksteady continues to make really strong, great titles, and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League looks really interesting. Even Gotham Knights, despite the shift, looks to be far and away from me much more promising than the Avengers ever was. So it's almost felt like these really, really talented developers have almost been clashing, like you said, against the top tier decisions to be like, oh, where can we get a bit more money? Can we put a few microtransactions in here? Can we, maybe sell this later or whatever? And I think, in terms of our boxed sales are relevant, I think that's quite a good topic for a podcast maybe down the line, because it almost feels like it at the moment. You know, me and Scott were talking about it in our podcast on Monday between the licensed EA games. You know, Jedi Fallen Order sold really well, but it didn't have any microtransactions, whereas Battlefront 2 kind of like came in under expectations in terms of core sales, but you imagine that's made so much money in, DLC down the line. And you look at something like FIFA or Call of Duty, which just brings in like silly money I can't even comprehend. Like, Call of Duty brought in $2 million, and all of the publishers ultimately are going to be looking and saying, how can we get that? Yeah, game sales are really good, but how can we get like the top tier money in income and profit? And ultimately the answer is by embracing live service elements across the board, putting them in anywhere they can.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the game prices are going up, and also we are getting nickel and dimed all along the way. But I guess we want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you looking forward to this live service future? Are you looking forward to handing over more coins and not the ones you collect in Mario to every publisher known to man? Let us know down below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe while here, because you like the content. And you can also like, share and subscribe Josh on Twitter at
Josh Brune with 2 O's in the brown bit in the end. It's been years. I need to find a catchier way to say that. I need to find a better sign off, man. That's my project.
Because I'm not going to make another lower third for you. And you can follow me at Ben Roy Turner, and you can follow us at WCulture Gaming. I got it right the first time. And until next time, I'll probably see you on the next hump day. So, good night.
Bye.